Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to discuss about the introduction to ABAP programming. So, first, before we start writing complex programs, we need to understand one basic question, like what exactly ABAP is. ABAP is the programming language used in the SAP environment for developing and extending business applications. See, like this, SAP is used for business platform. So, it is a programming language associated with SAP and it is primarily used to develop and extend SAP business applications. Then, now when I say programming language, don't think that ABAP is completely different from other languages that you may have heard about. Just like Java, Python, or C have syntax, variables, statements, and logic, ABAP also has programming concepts. But ABAP is specifically designed around business applications and the SAP environment. For example, an organization may need a special sales report, or they may need a custom invoice form, or they may need transfer information from SAP to other systems, or they may have some additional validations when a user enters data. ABAP can use it to build these type of solutions. So, in simple sentence, ABAP is a programming language used to develop and extend SAP business applications. Now, see, here we are taking as SAP business platform. Here one simply code we have written there, like report z hello. It is a name of the program, and write. We are using the syntax to print statement like write. Here one string is there like hello ABAP. So we are conclude with dot. This is a simple program of ABAP program. Now what is ABAP? We already discussed about the why the ABAP is and what is the ABAP. Like we are generating by using the ABAP, those are reports, interfaces, enhancements, business logic, forms. Now, why do we need ABAP? Now you may have a question. If SAP already provides so many standard features, why do we need ABAP? This is most important question. SAP provides a huge amount of standard functionality. For example, SAP can already support sales, purchasing, finance, inventory, production and many other business processes, but every company is different. So, company A may have one business process while company B may have a slightly different process. Sometimes the standard SAP functionality is enough. In that case, we simply use the standard SAP functionality. But some other cases, the company has a specific requirement that is not completely available in standard SAP. So there is ABAP comes into the picture. The business gives the requirement, the ABAP developer understands the requirement and develops a custom solution. Like SAP standard works used by SAP, custom needed use ABAP. For example, the customer might say, I need a report showing sales by customer, region and month. If the required standard report is not sufficient, an ABAP developer can develop a customer report. Similarly, ABAP can be used for custom forms, interfaces, validations, and enhancements. So remember, this is simple concept. Standard SAP functionality first, custom ABAP development when the business requirement needs it. So here we are finding the custom solutions like giving the report, forms, and logic when the different companies need a different requirement. Where does ABAP fit? In our previous class, we discussed SAP's three-tier architecture. Let's quickly connect that concept with ABAP. We have three main layers, that is presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. This is where the user interfaces with SAP. For example, SAP GUI are web-based interfaces such as Fiori. The second layer is a application layer. This is where the application processing and business logic happen. And this is where ABAP is very important. ABAP program can contain the business logic that processes the user request. Finally, we have the database layer. It is used to store the business data. So simply, User is used the presentation layer to show the application, and application layer is used to write the ABAP programming business logic, and database layer is used to store the business data into the tables. For example, imagine a user wants to see a sales report. The user interact with SAP. The request reaches the application layer. ABAP logic may process that request and retrieve the required information from the database. Then the result is returned to the user. This is the basic relationship between ABAP and SAP architecture. Now we will discuss about how an ABAP program works. Now let's understand how an ABAP program works at a very basic level. We can think about it in 5 steps. First is business requirement. Someone in the organization has a requirement. For example, I need a report showing customer sales. So we need a business requirement. Then it is having the input. The program may receive information such as customer number, date range, or sales organization. Then ABAP program. The ABAP developer writes a program to handle the requirement. Then processing. The program processes the information according to the required business logic. It may read data, calculate values, apply conditions, or format information. Then output. Finally, the user gets the required result. In our example, that could be a sales report. So remember, requirement, input, ABAP program, processing, output. This simple flow will help you understand many ABAP concepts that we'll learn later. Now, structure of simple ABAP program. Now let's look at our first simple ABAP program. Don't worry about memorizing everything yet. Our goal is simply to understand the structure. The first statement is report Z hello. Report tells the SAP system that we are defining an executable report program. Z hello is the name of our program. You will often see custom SAP development objects beginning with Z or Y in traditional customer development naming conventions. Next, we have data LV underscore name type string. Here we are declaring a variable called LV underscore name. We will discuss variables in more detail shortly. Then LV underscore name equal to Khaleel. This assigns the value Khaleel string to the variable LV underscore name. And finally write colon hello comma lv underscore name. It means write is used to produce output. So the basic flow is define the program, declare data, assign value, produce output. This is very simple program, but it gives us our first understanding of basic ABAP syntax. Now you understand about the report, data, assignment, and the write. This is the structure of ABAP program. Now ABAP statements. Now let's understand what an ABAP statement is. An ABAP program is made up of individual statements. For example, data LV underscore age, type I. Here LV age is a integer. This is one statement. Then LV underscore age equal to 24. This is another statement. And write LV underscore age. This is another statement. Each statement perform a particular action. One important thing you should remember as a beginner, the ABAP statement generally end with a period dot. You can see the period at the end of each statement in our example. So whenever we start the writing ABAP, always pay attention to the syntax and especially statement termination. First data declaration, assignment store value, write display output, and ABAP statement generally used with a end period. This is an important. Later when we start writing larger programs, you will see many different types of ABAP statements. Finally, variables. Now let's talk about one of the most basic programming concept, variables. A variable is simply a named storage location used to hold a value. Let me check. We have LV underscore name. It is an variable and we store a string like Khalil. Similarly, we have LV age. It is also a variable. It is stored the 24 as an integer value. You can think of variable like a labeled box. The label is the variable name and the value is stored inside the box. Like for example, LV name is the variable and Khaleel is the string. This is stored in the LV name. LV underscore age is a variable. 24 is a integer value that is stored in LV underscore age. For example, data LV underscore name type string. This means we are declaring a variable called LV underscore name and its type is string. We will learn much more about variable naming conventions and data types as we continue the course. So finally, ABAP data types. Now a variable does not just store any random type of value. We usually specify what type of data the variable is expected to contain. That where data types comes in. For example, if we want to store a whole number such as 24, we can use the integer type I. If we want to store a text, we use the string. For example, data lv underscore type I. Here lv underscore is an integer variable and data lv underscore name type string. So we are having the string to store the string value and the date it is used to store the date value and the time it is to store the time value and packed number which is stored by p data type. So basic operators. Now let's look at the operators. Operators allows us to perform operations on values. The basic arithmetic operators are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Now data lv underscore result. This is the variable name. It is storing the integer I. LV result equal to 10 plus 20 integer numbers we can show as output by the LV underscore result variable. Now we will get the output as 30. Then what can an ABAP developer build? Now let's connect everything we have learned with the actual job of ABAP developer. What does an ABAP developer actually build? One common areas is reports. For example, invoices, purchases, enhancements, data migration, OData services, forms. So, real world ABAP example sales report. Let's finish the technical explanation with a real world example. Imagine a company wants a customer wise sales report. So, the first person involved is the business tier. That is the used by business user. The business user explains the requirement. I wanted to see sales for each customer between two dates. The requirement is the understand by the technical team. The ABAP developer designs and develop the required ABAP program. Then the program process the data according to the business requirement. Finally, the user receives the sales report. So our complete flow is business user, then requirement what we need. They will collect the requirement of ABAP developer and ABAP developer is written the code in ABAP program. Then by using the SAP data it will produce the sales report to the customer. This is very simple example but it is represent the basic idea behind many real world ABAP development tasks. In actual project the requirement and processing can be much more complex but the basic concept remains the same. So summary, we discussed about the class 2. ABAP stands for Advanced Business Application Programming and it is used to developing and extending SAP business applications. Second, we understood why ABAP is required. SAP provides a standard functionality but customers can have specific requirements that need custom development. Third, we learned where ABAP fits in SAP architecture. ABAP is primarily involved in the application and business logic layer. Then we looked at the basic structure of ABAP program. We written the addition program there. We learned about statements, variables, data types, and basic arithmetic operators. Finally, we looked at the what an ABAP developer can build and a simple real world sales report example. So now you have the basic foundation required to start understanding actual ABAP development using the database tables, structures, views, search helps, and lock objects as theoretically and practically by using the SAP application. Thank you.